Yo, 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 it's your friendly neighborhood knucklehead here, and this is the fifth vlog in this new vlog series that I've been doing on my new healing journey now in 2023. And it's January 24th, Tuesday, and this is definitely going to be a review on my first 21-day challenge, which was my 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge, which was a part of, again, a big part of my healing journey. Now, before I get into that review and even what that is, just want to give a little bit more background on where I was starting out. If you saw the other vlogs, you're going to know this stuff, but just a little bit more context, even if you saw those vlogs. Coming out of 2022, I was just not in a good place. I was in a relationship that got really, really stressful, and my partner was more and more unavailable and emotionally and more avoidant, which caused me to sort of cycle into my trauma response, which was getting more and more codependent. And like we talked about in the last vlog, what the different trauma responses were, I was getting more and more in a state of fawning, right? And that's just because of partially who I am as a real empathetic person. I saw the struggles that my partner was going through and was really trying to be as supportive and as available and trying to make things work as best as possible. But there's only so much that we have control over, and ultimately it just led to a real state of codependency and anxious attachment, right? It's the big cycle of the anxious attachment and the avoidant attachment, right? Which is something you can look up if you have experience with that, or even if you know what I'm talking about. But once it gets to a certain point, it starts to become a codependent dynamic. And that's kind of where 2022 was going for me. And then I pulled myself out of that relationship at the end of 2022 and had to find a different living situation. So I'm here back at my dad's house, and I found a therapist, and now with 2023 started a new path. Now all of that stuff resulted in me just having wide open wounds, and they were much deeper than just being sad about a breakup or missing somebody. These were wounds that went all the way back to childhood. So mother-father wounds, which I'll talk about probably in later vlogs when I have a better concept of that and talking about it. But my therapist diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder, which was me separating myself from the trauma of that relationship and the way it ended and the state that I was in. It was just, I was spiraling within myself with bad thoughts and then nauseous feelings, and I was just in a state of reliving trauma, not sleeping, and it was just a much deeper thing than breaking up with somebody, which breaking up with somebody is also just really hard on its own. So there was a lot of things like wrapped together. There was multi-layered healing that needed to take place, and I thought, if there's all these different things that I should heal within myself, there should be different things that I'm doing to heal. So once the therapist diagnosed me with PTSD, and I started working with her on what the treatment is for that, and started giving her more and more of my story, I also was taking it upon myself to do more and more research on relationship dynamics, on anxiety, on my difficulty letting go of not being able to really accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. last year. So it was a whole mess of things that I needed to kind of sort out and get a better understanding of. And through the YouTube research, I was able to tackle some psychological stuff like the mother-father wounds, the anxious attachments, even the reactive attachment disorder, which is something my therapist threw in there, which is a really early childhood thing. You know, and that side of it, and also the spiritual side, which is what we're going to get to, and my reviewing of that. Now, I'm not a real spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. So I very much was just surrendering myself to this process to begin with. And I think that that's a very important mindset to have, is to really try to let go of your ego, let go of the judgment, let go of trying to even articulate things in a certain way, like just brutal honesty with the therapist, brutal honesty with myself. That's the path I was choosing to become this healthy, healing version of myself, my higher self, right? Which is what Aaron talks about. So some of this stuff, it might sound a little bit hippy-dippy. It might sound a little far out. It might even sound like, it might even give you like a cult vibe to it, depending on where you are with accepting spirituality. If you're somebody that is in tune with the zodiac stuff, or if you're in tune with Christianity or any kind of religion, right? A lot of things pop up in all forms of spirituality, right? Where there's different terms or different vocabularies that are kind of saying the same thing, right? It's kind of like in Roman and Greek mythology, how they have the same stories, but they use different names for the gods, right? So that's kind of what I was picking up. And even to the point where the spiritual side and the psychological side were using or talking about the same things with different terms, right? So it was kind of across the board, where it felt like the more I was learning, the more valid the information is. And then my approach of surrendering myself and trying this process was really opening myself to reaping the benefits or realizing that this was a big mistake. So now, the 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge review. That was my context. I'm not a spiritual person, trying something for the first time. The way I first got tuned into Aaron Doughty was, again, through my YouTube research on letting go and like no contact rule, and just trying to put my uneasiness and my traumatic brain to rest and to start the healing process a little bit, and to try to do it in the right way. So learning more about Aaron and learning about his upbringing and his codependent struggles and his even his situation with his stepmom, it really made me feel like, okay, there's a lot of similarities between me and Aaron. So that made me even more, enthusiastic about trying out this process. So I took the what's my vibration quiz, which I'll put the link down there if you're interested in that as well. And again, very skeptical of online quizzes and things like that, but I have taken personality tests, which I talked about in the last vlog as well, in dealing with the trauma responses, and it was pretty spot on. So I'm just surrendering myself and going with it. The first week was surreal, partially because I was so unsettled that the meditations were really, really having a physical impact as well as a mental and emotional impact. So the first week, which was the first week of January, was life-changing. It really was. It was really life-changing. And again, what I was doing was I had a therapist twice a week. I still am. I did the meditations every morning, and then throughout the day, I would watch some YouTube on healing psychologically through the day, and at night, I would watch some more of Aaron Doughty's videos just explaining his spirituality and his journey and what to make of this process and stuff. So I was really full on like morning, afternoon, and night classes with this stuff. So I really felt like I had almost an accelerated process of this 21-day challenge. And the first 2 weeks were definitely life-changing. The second week, things were a little bit less physical and a little more mental, which I attribute to, I think, healing. And like I talked about in the last vlogs, how my mind was wandering more and more. And I think it was because my brain is always reaching for the next thing. Okay, so I feel good about this. What's next? What's next? What's next? And sometimes it starts giving me thoughts that are very uncomfortable to see if I can deal with them. Like my brain starts challenging me with stuff like that. But the most important thing about the full 21 days, now talking fully about the review, obviously, number one, highly recommend, especially if you're a young person, to really get in tune with yourself, your body, and even start thinking about things in your past that you might not be real conscious of on a day-to-day basis. And overall, what the meditations and Aaron's YouTube brought out was self-awareness. And to me, this is massive. When I talk about this healing journey and I think about, well, what does it really look like? And what is going to be really the end result? And how am I going to know if things are working or if things are moving in the right direction? And what I realized through this 21-day process was it's all about self-awareness. Being self-aware about your trauma responses, about your traumatic events that have happened in your life, and how it affects you in the present and how it might affect you going forward. And something that Aaron says in a couple videos is that awareness is 90% of change, of consciousness. It's almost all of it. The 10% is what you do after you're aware to it. But 90% is the awareness. And what meditation does that therapy might not really do, or even just YouTube research or talking to friends, family, or whatever, and getting it out, venting, or what meditation does is it brings your focus into your body and your mind and your thoughts and into your body. And once you have that internal focus, that's your new awareness. You have your internal awareness. And that's where I was struggling the most at first, because I was trying so hard to control my thoughts, because my therapist had told me, like, the thoughts are really what's triggering the bodily response and the feelings and the emotions. It's starting with the thoughts whether I'm conscious of them or not. Sometimes I don't even know that I'm thinking about triggering things until I start feeling triggered because I was in that traumatic state. And now this idea of controlling the thoughts and controlling my body, it was leading to more resistance. The more I tried to control, the harder it was. And again, the process of surrendering myself came into effect right there. The awareness. The more I'm controlling, the more I'm out of control. Or the more I'm trying to control, the less control I have. So what do? And Aaron is, through his videos, talks about letting go of the control. Don't even try to control your thoughts. Let them come in, observe them, let them feel, let yourself feel whatever the thoughts are making you feel, and just know that it's okay. You don't have to control yourself fully to that extent. You can let things happen. And the more and more you let it happen, the less and less your body wants it to happen. And one of the big things I've learned from Aaron, aside from the self-awareness, well, actually this is self-awareness, was the big word ego. What my ego is and where and how to even identify the thoughts that I get are coming from my ego. Like identifying and being aware that some of these thoughts are not really real. They're just coming from my ego, and the ego that I have is it's in survival mode, especially when you're in a shaky state, in a state of trauma response. You're in survival mode, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Survival, right? Your body thinks, oh my God, I need to figure this out. I need to get control of myself. And again, the more and more you try to control, the less control you have. So the thoughts that I were having, my ego was getting so challenged by reliving things in the past, reliving moments of that relationship that were triggering, and even getting to a point where my ego was sending me thoughts about things that didn't happen. More like, what if this happened? Do you think you're still okay with it all? And that, even to this day, on, day 23 or 24, to this day, that's what I'm going to continue to work on moving forward. And I recognize now that, like, I can control my ego, and controlling my ego is a big, and being aware to what your ego is telling you is massive to me. Even putting myself on the internet like this and being vulnerable, it's like my ego could tell me, wow, you're really cringy. Like, you really think people are going to enjoy this? You really think you're going to change anyone's perspective? Like, why don't you just play it safe and go get a job and just walk it off or whatever? It's all ego. And oftentimes when you get deeper and deeper into ego, or when I get deeper and deeper into my ego, it's not coming from a good place. It can be coming from an unhealed place. It can be coming from a toxic place. So, that being said, I want to pull this up one more time. This is a different version of the Hawkins scale that's giving a little bit more information on your emotional state and how you're feeling along with these vibration levels. And when I originally took the quiz in the beginning of the month, I was at a state of creator, which was, I want to say, in the yellow here and in the green, right? And now I've taken the quiz again, and I am definitely in the green, pushing into the blue at the level of magician. But that doesn't mean that thoughts and situations and even dreams that I have still cause me to wake up in a feeling of anxiety, in a feeling of humiliation, in a feeling of despair, which brings me back to the red or orange. But now, having the awareness to it and realizing that, oh, this is just my ego getting challenged by things within myself, I can bring myself out of it and really observe what the thoughts are and observe the reactions that I have. And then I can choose to respond to it. So if you're looking at these feelings, and if there's something that, like, even going, I'm not really that in tune to what the view of life column means here, but I do know there's often a sense of hopelessness that you can feel when you're really, really out of control with letting your thoughts run rampant and really just not being able to settle yourself down, because that's definitely where I was last year at times, and just completely not knowing what to do. So all in all, if you see yourself in there, just know that there is a process here. And I think if you click that link below, and start a journey that way, I believe it'll work for you. So overall, I highly recommend it to everybody to get a sense of self-awareness. My next challenge that I've been dealing with, because Aaron has a bunch of 21-day challenges and things like that. The next thing that I'm taking on is my inner child and my self-image. So it's a bit of past stuff and future stuff, right? Where I see myself in the future and where I was in the past, and bringing both of them into my present, right? Bringing how I want to feel and where I want to be in the future, bringing that into my present, and bringing the awareness for where I was and how I was brought up and all of those things, bringing that awareness into my present so I can have the total awareness of the ego and of my higher self. So I hope this is helping you out as much as it's helping me out. Probably not, but at least we can get the ball rolling here. And if you have any tips or any ideas on things to do in a healing journey, let me know. Thanks for checking me out, and I'll talk to you guys next time.